Hey everyone, welcome. I am so excited for you guys to learn from the guru, the expert on perimenopause. This is Claudia. And funny enough, Claudia and I just met, but I've been following her for years because another expert who I respect so much in the nutrition space said, hey, if you want to know what the hell's going on in your body around 40, right? Claudia is your gal. So first of all, Claudia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so as you guys know, we just jump in. You will have the show notes. You will have Claudia's bio and all the information on where to find her and how to connect with her. But Claudia, let's start with the basics, right? I think a lot of people want to know what exactly is perimenopause and how is it different from menopause?
Yeah, so perimenopause is the time period before menopause. It's leading up to that. So menopause is when we no longer have periods, right? It's a cessation of our menstrual cycle. And the average age of that is 51. That's not the rule. It can be earlier, it can be later. But perimenopause is essentially the time before. And the annoying thing is that it can last anywhere from 1 year up to 10 or so years before. When women hear this, they're usually like, what do you mean 10 plus years? That's just the unfortunate truth. And we're all different. It's not like there's one set, time frame for everybody. It really depends on the person. There's so many different factors that contribute to it. So really, perimenopause for most women starts in their 40s, and it could be your early 40s, your mid 40s. But we are actually starting to lose hormones in our mid 30s. So what I mean by that is, we have ovaries that are producing our sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. But in our mid 30s is when we start to have a decline in progesterone. And then in our 40s is when estrogen just starts to fluctuate a lot, like a roller coaster. So when I explain that to women, what's really happening biologically, they're like, oh, I get it now. Because we often feel these highs and lows in our moods, our periods are different. Like day to day, you could feel really good one day, and the next day you could feel really low, really lousy. So that's kind of perimenopause in a nutshell.
So fun, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a good time.
Okay, so what are some of the most common signs or symptoms that women experience, especially the ones that they don't expect?
Yeah, a lot of women, this is mostly from what I hear from clients that come to us, but they often start to experience anxiety, like heart palpitations. They start to get like just overwhelmed, like everything bothers them. They're very stressed out. They just feel like they can't handle the normal stress and, chaos of life. Sleep disruption is another big one. So whether that's inability to fall asleep or stay asleep, sometimes they end up waking up in the middle of the night, can't fall back asleep, or they're just waking up really early in the morning and they're like, I'm still exhausted. I could have slept another hour or two, but their body's like, nope, you're ready to go. And then the mood swings. Mood swings are huge. A lot of women come to us because they are so incredibly irritable. So they are snapping at their kids, their husband, just everything bothers them. Noise, like anything and everything, they're just like overwhelmed by. Then there's brain fog. A lot of women start to feel like they can't remember things. You walk into a room, you forget why you walked in, you forget people's names. You could be talking about something and just like the words just escape you. So a lot of women are like, what's going on? Especially if you're an educated woman or you are in a career or business where you have to be at the top of your game and you're forgetting words. It's actually really kind of scary. And then, of course, there's the weight gain. So you start to notice, like, oh, weight isn't as easy to come off, or oh, why do I have this little belly here? I never had that before. And then the other thing that we see a lot, and a lot of women don't tie these things to hormones, are digestive issues. So they start to notice that they're constipated, they have some really awful gas or bloating, even just acid reflux, just like discomfort with their gut. And then vaginal issues. So that can range from just a change in sensation, like with intercourse, it's not feeling as pleasurable. It could be vaginal dryness, a change in your odor, frequent urination, or even UTIs.
Again, it sounds so fun, right?
Yeah, and that's just kind of scratching the surface of the symptoms, but those I would say are the most common and ones that people are like, I don't, this has to do with my hormones. Like they just don't see the connection.
Connection for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is there still so much confusion around this season of life? And how
Yeah.
do we start changing that?
Well, we're changing it right now by talking about it. I think awareness is huge. There's such a lack of education, when it comes to women's health in general, right? I mean, we know that even studies, most of them years ago were conducted on men. So many were not conducted on women. And many doctors, whether it's OBGYNs, PCPs, endocrinologists, a lot of them just do not get the curriculum about peri and menopause when they're in school unless they've gone for further education or further training, especially when it comes to HRT, hormone replacement therapy, they likely cannot support you. And a lot of women just assume that their doctor, especially an OBGYN who should know about hormones, right? They can guide you through fertility, pregnancy and all that. But then when you hit your 40s and above, they're kind of just giving you one or two solutions, which most women don't want. And then on top of that, there was a very faulty, misinterpreted study that was done years ago called the Women's Health Initiative, WHI, that unfortunately just the results of it were misinterpreted. And the media kind of ran with that misinterpretation, created a lot of fear around hormone replacement therapy. So doctors stopped prescribing it after years of prescribing it to women. Women were taking it for many years with success, but a lot of doctors stopped. And then, of course, that instilled fear in women as well. So we're still undoing the damage of that, unfortunately.
And how do we undo the damage? I know we talk about it, but I'm glad you brought this up because I actually was just listening to a podcast around this and really understanding the misinterpretation and the fear that was spread
Mm,
honestly was alarming because this
yeah.
isn't my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
So where do we go to find the information?
Yeah, it's hard. And even so, I mean, I just had somebody in my inbox recently and she's asking me like, "Oh, doesn't HRT cause cancer?" And it's such a like loaded question because obviously in a DM there's so much that you can share, but there's a lot of data. There's one book that I often refer women to, especially if they want to do research or they want to look at studies. It's called Estrogen Matters by Avram Blooming. He wrote this book many years ago. They actually just came out with a like an updated version. I have yet to read it. It's a lot to sort through, but that's where he pretty much debunks a lot of what we were told about the Women's Health Initiative, but also just hormones in general and the history of hormone therapy use. I mean, it really dates back even into like ancient China, where they would take the urine of young people and crystallize it. They would like dry it in a way and kind of crystallize it. I don't know the exact method. And older people would consume it to get the benefits of the hormones. So, I mean, it's actually very interesting if you really dig into the history of it. This is not really new. It's just that because of that one study, we totally went off course with it. Hormones are something that we make naturally. We shouldn't be afraid of them. But the other issue is that there are different types of hormones available to us. Some are bioidentical to what our body makes, and others are synthetic. So it is a different formulation, and those do pose some risks. So, it's always about talking to your provider as long as they're hormone savvy. So that's another challenge is finding somebody who is up to date on the research and who has gone for further training in hormones and hormone replacement therapy to get the right education and really talk about what the benefits and risks are for you as an individual. Because I can easily sit here and say, yeah, everybody can take hormone replacement therapy, but that's just not the truth. And that does a disservice to people because we're all unique and what works for you may not work for me and vice versa.
Sure. That's so helpful. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about you. What
Yeah.
led you to start talking about perimenopause? How did you get into this line of work?
It's a long story, but I'll try to give a quick run through. I always struggled with, I mean, I struggled with health issues since I was a kid. I got my first menstrual period when I was 10. We were all just shocked. My mom was like, oh my God, you're too young for this. And then since then, everything kind of went downhill. I had horrible periods. And then eventually, I think when I was 18, 19, I went on hormonal birth control because, that's what most doctors recommend. And I didn't know any better. My mom didn't know any better. And then things just kind of got worse. I developed thyroid nodules, depression. I gained weight. I had cystic breasts. I had to remove a cyst from one of my breasts before I think I was like 28 or something. Just poked and prodded over the years. And then I eventually developed a prolactinoma, which is a pituitary adenoma. That overproduces prolactin. So that is what really, and that was when I was about 29, 30. And that kind of was the turning point for me where I really started to dive deeper into women's health, women's hormones. And at that time, I simultaneously decided to go back to school to become a health coach. So I had been coaching women for years. And then about 5, 6 years ago, I'm 42 now, I was 35, 36 around that time, I started to notice a shift in just how I was feeling. I started dealing with anxiety, and I had never experienced that before. Just like shortness of breath, like just everything overwhelmed me. I had been running a business and supporting hundreds of women, and I would be working and I just couldn't focus. I couldn't get things done. I got to the point where I was just so overwhelmed. Every day I just felt anxious and my mood was low. I almost I almost actually closed my business. I was like, how can I support women when I am feeling this way? I need to figure out what's going on. Then my sleep started changing and my periods, and I was like, wait a minute. Like everything I had learned about hormones, I was like, could I be in perimenopause already? It just seemed crazy to me because 5, 6 years ago, nobody was really talking about this. But I was like,
Right.
I think I need to start talking about this because this is real. And of course, clinically, I was seeing women coming to us younger and younger with a lot of the same symptoms. And I thought, what the hell is going on here? Like, and then we would, test hormones and we would, of course, assess symptoms more than anything. And just like little by little, the pieces kind of came together. And I was like, I need to start talking about this just to bring more awareness that it could happen earlier than we expect.
Yeah. Whoever said it could happen in your mid 30s? I'd
Yeah.
never heard it before. Yes.
No, and even at that point, I mean, now women are even getting pregnant later and later. So you're thinking fertility, but you're like, wait a minute, how could I be in perimenopause when I'm having a baby or want to have a baby? But we do start to lose, like I said, that progesterone in our 30s. Now, some women may not have symptoms, and you may not even label yourself as perimenopausal. But that is just what is starting to happen. We start to, our ovaries just aren't producing those hormones in abundance little by little. But really, in your 40s is where the changes are more obvious, I would say.
Sure. Okay, so what myths are keeping women stuck? Because there's so many myths out there, right? Like,
Yeah.
what would you say? What's keeping women stuck?
Well, the first thing is that a lot of women think that there's nothing they can do about it, that it's kind of out of their control. And they're just like, well, I guess it's my hormones. And they just kind of throw their hands up in the air. And it's like, okay, I guess I'm just going to suffer. And I'm like, no. Yes, we can say, they're obvious. The fact is that, like I said, our hormones are shifting, but there's so much you can do to support your body to feel good. And to be honest, in my 40s, I feel better now than I did in my 30s. I mean, it's crazy to say, but I do. And I hear a lot of women saying that. So that's one thing. And then there's of course the myths around, exercise and food, and especially when women are starting to gain a little bit of weight in this stage of life, a lot of them are like, oh, I got to cut calories, or I need to be eating less, or I need to go fully plant-based and do more cardio. But there's a lot of issues with that because your body needs a lot of nourishment in this phase. We don't want to overdo it when it comes to stress. We love cardio, but we also love strength training and resistance training. We need those things. And we need to be eating adequately to help mitigate some of the fluctuation of those hormones because when those hormones are fluctuating, our stress response is heightened. So if we're also compounding that stress by under eating, overtraining, restricting calories, it's not going to be a good situation. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of women are doing, and they end up in my world because they're like, "What happened? Why am I feeling so lousy?" And then I guess the last myth I would say is that hormonal birth control or like antidepressants are the only answer. Now, I'm not saying that those things may not have a time and place for certain women. They may benefit them, especially, if you need them short term, but they're not the only answer or the only solution, not even close.
I love that. Okay, so you just
Yeah.
brought something up that I had one of our members ask me, it's from a mom who feels like she's in perimenopause,
Mhm.
but she has teenage daughters. And she's like you said, you got put on birth control. You didn't know any better. Your mom didn't know any better, but now we know better. And a
Yeah.
lot of people are steering away from putting their teens on that. What do you recommend to the moms out there that are saying, how do we help our girls, but not go this route that has been traditional for so many years?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. And I'm not a mother, so I would never judge anybody for what they choose,
Right.
whether you're a mother or not. Like, I'm not in that situation. I don't know because, yeah, my mom didn't know what to do. And she thought, okay, I mean, she didn't want me to go on birth control, but it was my choice. I was 18, 19, like I said. But obviously teaching your daughters about their bodies is probably the first step. Learning the menstrual cycle. We have a 28-day cycle. There are different phases of it. The follicular phase, the luteal phase, the ovulatory phase when we could potentially get pregnant is very short. It's like a 5, 6 day window. And nobody really knows this. No one's really teaching girls this. So that would be the first step. And now there are so many like there's temperature, what are they called? Like things that you could take your temperature. There's things that you can put on your arm. Of course, all the names are escaping me. Perimenopause brain. Temp drop is one. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the other names, but there's a lot out there. If anybody wants to, get more information, they can obviously reach out to me. But FAM is family planning, where again you're really monitoring your phases of your cycle. You're taking your temperature. There's testing, different things that tell you when you're ovulating. So that would, if I had a child who is a teenager, I probably would start there. And then obviously you weigh, like I said, the risks versus benefits. The good news is there are more options in terms of hormonal birth control and even non-hormonal, like an IUD. Now, of course, again, there's pros and cons to all of them. Is it something I would necessarily choose? Maybe not. But if it's the only option, if your daughter is not interested in learning, or, maybe she has an irregular cycle where it's hard to know when she's ovulating, maybe an IUD is, the best option for that person. Again, would it be the choice I make? Maybe not, but who am I to judge? Like, I just want women to have the education and know that they have choices. And at the end of the day, it's up to them.
I love it. Such good answers. It's
Yeah.
all about education, right? For all of
Yes.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's informed consent, and a lot of us, unfortunately, years ago didn't get that. No doctor was saying, oh, you could take this pill, but by the way, these are some of the side effects that could happen. That's all I think, at least I did, really wanted was that information so that I could make a better decision for me. Had I known that I could have developed all these issues that I ended up with, I probably wouldn't have been on it for as long as I was. I mean, I was on different types of birth control pills for, gosh, over a decade, like many women.
Yeah, you certainly aren't alone.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about a mindset shift. Like, what's one shift that you wish every woman could make in this season?
Probably multiple ones, but I would say, and this one's a hard one because a lot of women don't want to hear it, but it is the ability to take a pause, slow down, listen to what your body needs. And sometimes it's not that obvious. And when women hear listen to my body, they're like, well, what does that mean? And usually it's because they're not taking enough of a pause to slow down and recognize the symptoms in their body and understand them. Like, nobody is going to fix you. No one's going to advocate for your health the way you do. So if you don't know what you're feeling, what your symptoms are, you're going to have a very hard time feeling good. A lot of women kind of, like I said earlier, kind of throw their hands up like, oh, it's my hormones, or they'll just go to their doctor, assuming that their doctor is going to help them. But more often than not, they don't. They don't have the knowledge for this stage of life. So if you can educate yourself and really tune into your body to recognize the symptoms, you're already ahead of the game.
So simple, but so powerful. And why do we have such a hard time pausing?
Because of this lifestyle that we're living. I
Right.
actually just did a podcast episode on it, so that's coming out about, just overstimulation, how much is coming at us on a daily basis, the constant emails, the Instagram reels, the pings and dings on our nervous system, constant communication via texting, group chats, and it's just too much. Like, this is not normal. The way we're living nowadays is not the way our bodies were designed. Our nervous systems can't handle it, and that plays a huge role. So when your nervous system is, you know, fried, for lack of a better term, your hormones are not going to do what they need to do. So no amount of hormone replacement therapy is going to help if you don't really learn how to give your body what it needs. And that's self-care, it's sleep, it's rest, it's going for a walk every day, learning when to say no and create boundaries in your life.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so that brings us up to the next question I think is really
Yeah.
powerful. This is again for you. What's a daily non-negotiable?
Oh gosh, probably a daily walk. I mean, I have several non-negotiables, but going for a walk every day, I mean, that if I'm ever feeling overwhelmed or anxious or even achy, just getting up, going outside for a walk, like it's so healing to me.
Yes. How long do you walk for? Like, do you have a set time? Do you have a goal?
It depends. I mean, in terms of goals, I try to hit, 10 to 12,000 steps per day. I do wear an aura ring. That's like the one thing that I track. I don't track a ton of stuff because I think that could become a little obsessive and add a little more stress to our plates, and we don't need any more stress in midlife. But I do keep an eye on, how much I'm moving. But, I have a dog, so it does make it a little bit easier. So I go out, 3 times per day usually, and it ranges. I mean, if I'm busy in the morning, it could be like a 15-minute walk. In the afternoon, if I have some free time, I may go for like a 45-minute walk. But yeah, I'm just mindful of moving throughout the day, even if it's not outside. I'm not sitting at my desk for hours. I will get up and go downstairs or go to the bathroom or whatever, just to like get some movement in. I think so many of us are just too sedentary.
Yes. Yeah. What's another daily non-negotiable? I know you said you have
Yeah, I
several
have a
of
bunch.
them.
3 main meals per day. I try to really support my body and listen to my body. I mean, some days I may go a little later. Obviously there's a huge obsession with fasting nowadays. And I just tell women, please don't be so rigid with it, because we do, like I said, have different phases of our cycle where there are certain points where we really shouldn't be fasting for extended periods. We actually need to eat more at certain points. But, for the most part, I feel good with eating 3 meals per day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, each one with protein and fiber. And then my other non-negotiable is prioritizing sleep, because I know for me, my life depends on it. Like, if I don't sleep, you don't want to be around me. Yeah.
And do you have a sleep goal? How many hours are you getting a night?
I mean, my goal is always at least 7 hours. If I do more, that's amazing. But if I do less than 7, 7.5, I don't feel as good. Yeah.
Yeah. I laugh because I'm
How
the
about
same
you?
way, but I'm like, seven doesn't feel like enough.
No. Oh, no. I mean, I would love like a solid 8 hours, but yeah, sometimes it's hard. And even, I mean, I'm on hormones, hormone replacement therapy. And even with that, sometimes, we have a dog who jumps in and out of the bed. If my partner moves, like, I'm a light sleeper. So I just feel like in this stage of life, it's a lot of effort to like get to bed on time, to have like, an eye mask so that you don't get light coming in. You want to block out noise. I don't like when there's a lot of clutter. So it's like I almost need these perfect, not that perfect is anything we can achieve, but these like sleep conditions to make sure that, I'm getting into that deep sleep. But yeah, 7 to 8 hours is optimal for me.
But isn't it so simple? I think we overcomplicate things too.
Oh yeah,
Like you just
totally.
said, a walk, sleep, and 3 meals a day. Like I feel like our parents taught us that when we were real little.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems crazy because women, will come to me, and obviously they invest in my program, and we're just always going back to the basic health foundations. And I have to constantly, me and my team practitioner, remind them, like, are you eating enough? Did you go for a walk today? how much sleep are you getting? Because so many of us, especially with the online space and everybody's selling you something, it's like, what supplement should I take? What test should I do? And I'm like, no, 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 no. Come back to the basics. Because if you're not doing these things, I'm not talking to you about supplements. Like, I'm a little bit of a tough cookie with that, but we've just gone
Amen.
so far off from what nature has intended as humans.
Oh, so true. So good. Okay, so what's something you've embraced?
Quiet time. And listen, again, I don't have kids, so I could say that easily, whereas most people are like, yeah, I don't have any quiet time with children. And obviously that depends. If you've got little ones, that's hard. Um, you know, Most of our clients, I would say their kids are teens, so they're definitely able to slow down a little bit more. Not with all the activities and things, but they can create boundaries where they can have some alone time. They can have time for themselves. Another thing I've just, in business, I have definitely slowed down. I used to work very hard as an entrepreneur, as somebody who started my own business, 12, 13 years ago. I was hustling big time and listening to, a lot of the, I don't know, boss babes and business
Right.
coaches, marketing coaches telling you that, you need to produce and post content and reels and all this stuff. And I mean, I burned out and it's like, wait a minute. Like I already burned out before I hit 30 and that's what started this business. That's what made me become a health coach. And then I kind of like got back to that because I got so focused on growing the business and success. And I'm like, what am I doing? So I do believe that one of the reasons why I started perimenopause earlier than most is because I was hustling and just overdoing and focusing so much on bringing in a certain revenue and success and comparing, of course, right? And then you hear again, business coaches, there's a lot of like people telling you like you should be making X amount of money and blah 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 blah. And I just got so sick of it. And in my 40s especially, I'm like, no, I'm going to work at the pace that feels good to me. I am smarter with my time, very strategic with what I put out into the world, and really focusing on fun and hobbies and family time because that's what's really important.
Oh my gosh, that's a mic drop. If you shared nothing else, right? No, it
Right.
truly it is.
Yeah.
That's really incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're feeling off, whether it's anxious or whatever symptoms you're feeling, what's one thing that instantly makes you feel like you again?
Well, I said earlier, my non-negotiable is a walk, so that's probably the same. But if I can't get outside for a walk, I I will often just lay on the floor and I will put my legs up the wall and just breathe. It is one
Yep.
of the most supportive things that we can do for our nervous system, our gut health, in that moment. Like it's such a simple thing and it seems silly, like you're laying on the floor literally with your legs up the wall. But and if you do that deep breathing where you're feeling your belly expand and, contract, it's just really good to get you into that parasympathetic state.
There was a woman that shared about every night a non-negotiable for her was laying with her legs up on the wall. Do you have a time frame that you like to stick by?
I just do it until I feel better.
Yeah.
It could be 5, 10 minutes even. If I could do it longer, great. But again, I drop in, I listen to my body. When I feel better, when I'm not anxious or overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, I've done my reset.
I love it. Again, so simple, so powerful.
Mhm.
So, a big part of our community is all about being authentic and connecting people, right? When I had a major shift in my career, I had to get real about what am I good at and what do I enjoy? And being in my 40s, right? I wasn't willing to do shit that wasn't serving myself, let alone other people.
Yeah.
And I realized I thought the one thing that I'm really good at is connecting people. I love
Mm,
making the recommendation. I love championing other people. So we really like to focus on being authentic in this community. So for women in their 40s and beyond, being authentic can look different than it
mm,
used to. So
mm.
for you, what does showing up authentically mean to you? And I'd love for you to break it down a little bit
Yeah.
because of your wisdom. Maybe
Oh,
let's
thank you.
start with your work and then
Yeah.
your health and
Mhm.
then day-to-day life.
Yeah. I mean, kind of what I said earlier. to me, it's less about proving myself, more about honoring my body, where I am in this phase, paying attention to my energy, my bandwidth, as well as my values. Like I said earlier, I used to lead with the business. I thought my career and what I do and how much I produced was so important. I really fell into that trap, if you will. I think many women do. And it's not to say that we shouldn't be ambitious and we shouldn't go after what we want and all that. I mean, obviously, we can do whatever we want as women, but I often wonder, like, should we be doing as much as we're doing, especially when it may not be serving us after a certain point, or we're not finding fulfillment in it. I mean, prior to this, I was in the graphic design, publishing, marketing world, and I enjoyed it for a while, but there was a point where my health changed and I just became so interested in women's health, and I just felt this desire, this drive to help others. So I made that shift. And it's been, one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I mean, I joke around sometimes. I'm like, if I died tomorrow, I will have been very happy with what I have done in this world.
That's pretty powerful. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think a lot of people can say that. And it's not, I don't fault anybody, because it's scary to make that shift, especially to change careers. So I admire you for doing that and for acknowledging that, you weren't really fulfilled and you wanted to do something else with your strengths. And we all have so many strengths, and I think so many are just untapped because of fear. We're afraid of what people will think. We're afraid of the unknown. And that's valid. I get it. It's scary.
Right.
I don't think everybody has the entrepreneurial bug. And it helps having a partner. I have a partner, I've been with the same man for 16 years, and he's very supportive, and he's kind of like, the steady one. And I'm like the entrepreneur that's like, okay, we have ebbs and flows. I like my hormones, it's nice to have that compliment. But anyway, in terms of just, authenticity, I mean, I do my best to not sugarcoat the challenges of perimenopause. I have shared a lot of my own journey, the things that I have struggled with. I don't pretend that there's a one size fits all solution for all women. Like I mentioned earlier with even HRT. Yes, right now everybody's talking about HRT and how it's the thing, but not everyone wants to do it. There's fear what's around it. There's confusion. So I do my best to present evidence-based information to women. I share my own experience and I leave it up to them. There's no forcing, there's no pushing. It's always a personal decision. Whatever you put on or in your body, it is your decision and your decision alone. And I believe that women really do deserve, personalized care, because there's a lot of people being dismissed by doctors, and there's a lot of generic advice online. And I do my best to tell my community, listen, like even what I put out there is somewhat generalized because I don't know you. And unless you come into my world, unless, I get to know you, unless I get to look at some labs, like I really can't give you advice because we're all unique. So, I mean, that's kind of where I stand in that way. But what else did you say? You said business. I think I
This
covered
is
a lot.
really helpful. So
Yeah.
we talked, right, being authentic in your work,
Yeah.
in your health, and then
Mhm.
your day-to-day life. Because
Yeah.
it changes, right? What was showing up authentic for you 10 years ago is usually wildly different in this phase of life.
Oh yeah, it's so different and what I prioritize, and it's fine. I feel like at this point I am happier than I've ever been. And I really do think it's because I'm really listening and honoring myself instead of just doing what I think I should be doing or what others are doing. It's interesting how much we can be influenced by all the noise around us. But in this midlife, if you will, I feel like a lot of us are choosing to kind of shut out the noise and really, like I said, honor ourselves. And then even just in the online space, because so many people find me, via Instagram or even on YouTube, because my podcast is on there. But I try my best to show up with integrity, honesty, of course, and not just respecting my time and energy, but the women who choose to be in my world and my community, because there's a lot of fluff out there. And people just don't need more overwhelm. So I try to just bring clarity when I can.
Oh my gosh, that's another mic drop. And I was giggling inside because I'm like, that's totally why I connected with you right away when I started following you when you were recommended to me because you are black and white and you cut out the fluff. And that is so my style. And I appreciate that. So thank you for showing up like that.
Thank you. I did my
Yes.
best.
Well, this was incredible. So, like I said earlier, everyone's going to have all of your information to connect with you. And thank you for making the shift and moving into this space because you're making a huge difference for people.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.